Welcome back, and in this video we will continue factoring quadratic equations, quadratic expressions, but now we have a new purpose, to simplify the fraction we're working with. And let's see how we're going to do that and how fast now we can do factoring. For the number 24, I'm looking at the fraction and I see v minus 7 all over v squared minus 5v minus 14. There's nothing to factor in the numerator or simplify, so I will first look at the denominator, maybe even write it down separately. V squared minus 5v minus 14. Well, in my previous video I explained you that I like using Vieta Theorem to find roots for the quadratic equations. And this theorem says that when you find a product of two roots, the product should be c, but c is minus 14, so that should be, that's the product, minus 14 over here. But when you add those two roots, then it should give you minus b. Since b is minus 5, the addition will give you plus 5. And it becomes like a small game. What kind of two numbers you can think from negative 14 that have connection with 5? Well, it's kind of not so many options here. 14 is usually 7 and 2, and 7 and 2 indeed do have connection with 5. v1 and v2, so I'm making a guess, 7 and 2. If I multiply 7 by 2, I will get 14, but I need negative 14, so someone should be negative here, either 2 or 7. Which one should be negative? Well, since the addition should give me plus 5, then minus 2 should be negative, and the larger value should be positive. And that's exactly the answer here. If you think it's too complicated for you, then don't be afraid and just work with the quadratic formula right away, or any other methods you know. I know students build tables and so on. But you know that quadratic formula works as well. v1 and 2 will be minus b, that's 5, plus minus a square root. 5 squared is 25, minus 4, that's part of the formula, a, that's 1, and c, that's negative 14, all over 2a, that's all over 2. And now you calculate using quadratic formula, and I always say, if you freak out during the exam and timer is clicking, don't be afraid to just use whatever you know. So I'm gonna have here 5 plus minus square root of 25, minus times minus gives me plus 56 over 2. And then 56 plus 25 is 81. 5 plus minus a square root of 81 over 2. Square root of 81 is 9. So I will have two roots. One root is 5 plus 9 over 2. That's 14 over 2, that's 7. And the other root is 5 minus 9 over 2. That's negative 4 over 2, that's negative 2. And that's exactly the same answer I got, but a little bit slower. So if you can figure out the easier way, like the way I did, that would be much better. Okay, so we did figure out how to simplify the denominator of the fraction. And I will continue here. And then basically the answer follows. The numerator stays v minus 7. The denominator will be v minus first root, that's the 7, so v minus 7, and v minus second root, but since second root is negative 2, then it will be v plus 2. Since v does not equal to 7, we can cancel out this piece. Remember, canceling out doesn't mean it will give you 0 or something. It means dividing. V minus 7 over v minus 7 is 1. So the answer is 1 over v plus 2. Plus 2. Put it in the box. Now here's the second example, and the second example will be pretty long. Let's see why. That is because I need to here simplify both numerator and denominator. The first thing I see is that I can factor out 6 out of the numerator. U squared stays, then 6u, and also 8. The denominator becomes, for now it doesn't become anything, it's just u squared plus u minus 2. So that's the first step I could figure out. And now let me divide the numerator and denominator with colors. So I will try to find what can I do with u squared plus 6u plus 8. And again, choose the method you like. I like my methods where I'm guessing the roots, and it's just pretty fast this way, especially if you have good imagination. So I have 8, and I remember that u1 times u2 should give me 8. That's probably 4 and 2. And indeed, u1 plus u2 should give me minus 6. Always change the sign of the b for the theorem. So the root should be 4 and 2, but one should be negative. But both should be negative. Because if I just have 4 and 2, indeed 4 times 2 is 8, but then how would we get negative 6? But if both are negative, then it works out really well. Negative 4 times negative 2 indeed is 8, and negative 4 minus 2 is minus 6, works. So the answer will be for the numerator, this piece, numerator with factor out 6, u plus 4 times u plus 2. Always do minus the root. Now with the blue color, I will do denominator. U squared plus u minus 2. Would you like me to do the same method, or would you like me to do the quadratic formula? We can do quadratic formula this time if you want, or even the same idea. The sum of roots, let's say the product first. I always start with product. The product should be negative 2. The sum should be negative 1. Well, let's make a guess. It definitely is something about 2 and 1, right? So u1 is 2, u2 is 1, and 1 should be negative and 1 should be positive. Which one should be negative? Since the sum should be negative, then the larger value should be negative. Let's check. Negative 2 times 1 gives me negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1 gives me negative 1. Matches. U plus 2, u minus 1. Would you like me to do quadratic formula at least once to practice? The quadratic formula will be for the second one, for the denominator. u1, 2 will be minus b minus 1 plus minus a square root. B squared, that's 1 squared, minus 4, that's part of the formula. A, that's 1. C, that's negative 2. As you can see, I put parentheses everywhere, and I highly recommend you to do the same. All over 2a. Simplify. Only when you put parentheses everywhere, you probably will avoid making mistakes with signs inside of the square root. The answer in the denominator in that square root will be 1 plus, as you can see, minus times minus is plus, 4 times 2 is 8 over 2. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. So I'm going to have plus minus 3 over 2. So the first root, u1, will be minus 1 plus 3 over 2, plus or minus. And that is 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 over 2 is 1, matches with the answer we had before. And then u2 is minus 1 minus 3 over 2. That is minus 4 over 2, and that's minus 2. Matches with the answer we had before. So you choose which method would you prefer. Quadratic formula always works, so definitely consider it if you freak out during the test. But practice being creative. I would say that's very helpful for your brain. Let's continue with the example. And we're almost done over there. So I will put equal sign. And I remember that I do have 6 factored out. And now look at the purple side. U squared plus 6u plus 8 become u plus 4 times u plus 2. The blue part goes to the denominator. U plus 2 times u minus 1. Let's see what we can simplify here. U plus 2 can be divided by u plus 2. And the answer follows. The answer is 6 u plus 4 all over u minus 1. There's nothing to simplify more, so that is the final answer. One more example and we are done. Let's simplify this. X minus 3 all over x squared minus 6x plus 9. Well, actually, in the denominator, we are working with the square of difference, x minus 3 squared. Let's check how is that so. X minus 3 squared, based on the formula, a minus b squared. Square the first term, that's x squared, minus double product, first term and the second term, minus 2 times 3x, first term and the second term, plus square the second term, plus 9. That is x squared minus 6x plus 9. That means the simplified form will be 1 over x minus 3 if x is not 3. Remember, you can only simplify like this if you don't divide by 0. So you cannot cancel out x minus 3 and x minus 3 if x is 3. You could also use quadratic formula to find those roots. Would you like me to show you? x1, 2 is minus b, that's 6, plus minus a square root b squared. So be careful here, minus 6 squared, put it in parentheses, that's important. Because minus 6 squared is not the same as minus 6 squared. Parentheses here will be crucial, and I saw students making mistakes here all the time. Minus 6 squared minus 4, that's part of the formula, a, that's 1, and c, that's 9. All over 2a. A is 1. Very fast calculating, I will have 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 4 times 9 is 36. Oh, it is indeed. It makes sense because we don't have two different roots. So the answer will be 6 over 2 and is 3. That's exactly how we got x minus 3 squared, because basically both of my roots, x1 and x2, are the same, 3. Because the solution of the quadratic equation can be two different roots or one root, if two roots are the same, or maybe no roots at all. So hopefully these videos were helpful and now you feel more confident simplifying, factoring, distributing, and working with exponents. Hopefully I will see you in my next video and keep practicing to be great at this. See you next time.